Hello, good evening everyone. So welcome to episode 26 of Teh Tarik with Walid. And I know I say this every single time, but I mean it every single time. Today is a very special episode because I'll be hosting someone. In fact, he is the only one whom I knew and I was a friend of before that person entered politics or became a politician. Quote unquote politician, because he's a nominated member of parliament and there's some gray area as to what type of politician that constitutes. But anyway, so he is Raj Joshua Thomas. We call him. I call him Joshua or Josh, and he was actually my senior at NUS, and we were both tutors at the NUS Political Science Department at the same time. And he is currently serving his term as a nominated member of parliament, and he is the president of the Security Association. Yes, Security Association Singapore. So after he did his political science degree, he was a tutor there, and then hi Shaman. Thank you for your advice on production stuff. So Shaman is my relative, and he gave me some production advice. Very, very useful. I didn't necessarily use all of them, but very useful nonetheless. So anyway, so Josh, after his stint at the political science department, he went on to serve in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I think Ministry of Defense as well. Yeah, Ministry of Defense. And after that, he got a more useful degree. He did his law degree, and he became a lawyer. And long story short, he is a nominated member of parliament now. Okay, so he also used to be known. And for anybody who knows Josh, I mean, I wasn't surprised at all that he eventually entered parliament because, I mean, he always had that eloquence and charisma about him, so people are not really surprised. I mean, people who know him. No, I don't teach postgrad at NTU because there is. We do the PhD classes. We rotate and do the PhD classes, but there's no masters at my department, at least. So Josh, I don't think you're in yet. Okay, so if you have any questions for him, please type them, and then we can talk about them. So today we will be discussing a few issues, and depending on your comments, of course, so we'll be talking about the Sarah and People's Association incident. This is based on his speech in Parliament, where he talked about a few things, including the Sarah and PA incident, the GRC system, SEP schools, and then I will talk about NMPs, hopefully, and also minimum wage or income inequality. So meanwhile, we'll be having an episode with an SDP candidate for the general election in 2020, and that is Min Cheong. So that will be next week. So we will see what happens. Hello. Hi. Yes.
Yeah. I think we were cross trying to get into the.
Okay. Right. So how are you, Josh?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
No. I'm so grateful that you came on. I mean, we go a long way back, right? Probably about 10 years. And I already said some very nice things about you. I don't know whether you heard them. So,
okay, thank you.
One of the things I remember quite vividly. I mean, and this is what, 2011, 2010, right? I think one of the things that the students always mention that I got reminded of when I advertised this episode was how handsome you are. So I got a lot of DMs from my friends. Yeah, but anyway, so I'll leave it at that when I was advertising this. Yeah. Okay,
That's
so
nice to
thank you.
hear.
So thank you for doing this. So how has it been as an NMP so far?
So far, it's been really good. One of the things that I didn't expect was that I had a lot of interest groups, a lot of people writing to me to come and meet me, and I thought that has been really useful and really eye opening. And I've met a whole a range of people, and I've been engaging with them on a whole range of topics that honestly some of it I never really thought about. I
Right.
had not much exposure to. I mean, there's so much going on in Singapore, that it's really difficult to kind of uh, uh, I mean, don't even talk about deeply involved, but even to dip your finger into all of these things. So I have been really very gratified that I've got a whole wide range of people meeting with me, and I'm learning so much. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to make more of these representations, of people who may not always be heard, and who have got very particular interests, and who've got very particular kind of concerns. Yeah, so that's been very gratifying for me. I'm still learning, right? Because I think I need to know enough before I can bring it up in Parliament. So far, I've been raising things that I know more about.
Right.
I've spoken about, of course, low-wage workers and the security industry.
Right.
I've spoken about, foreign service officers and the work that they do. Next week, I will be speaking on the Police Act, the amendments to the Police Act.
Okay.
And I also did recently an adjournment motion on race, which I think we
Right.
will be talking about.
And that's a perfect segue, right? So I mean that I would say when I watch that speech, and I really urge everyone who's listening to listen to that speech or watch that speech. Is there any YouTube video where it's a standalone one? Because I saw it's just part of the 5 hour plus and 6 hour plus video.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think there's a standalone one.
Okay, right.
It's on my Facebook page, I think, together with Minister Edwin's reply
Right,
as well.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I'll share that link later on. So I think really when I was listening to it, I honestly mean this. I really think it was one of the great NMP speeches, and as I was listening to it, I really felt it bears resemblance to something like Viswa's speech on race and Xiaoyin's speech during the Oxley Road saga, and the various interventions by Walter and Anthea. I really put it up there. I really thank you for that intervention. I really enjoyed it, and I think we're going to discuss a lot of things that I think we agree on, but maybe others may not agree on, but it's good to tease out these ideas. But maybe let's start off with the disagreements. So there's one particular disagreement, and yeah. So
Yeah,
and
we
I
get
think
it out of the way first.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's end on a conciliatory note. So because this is awkward for me, right? Because I know you and I've known you for a while, and I didn't know Sarah before this, but now I know her. After the interview, I got to know her. I consider her a friend. I don't know whether she considers me a friend, but I consider her a friend. And I felt that speech, I felt that initially when I was listening to it, I felt you were being a little bit harsh on her when I heard when you were talking about opportunists. Although you're not referring to her as an opportunist. It's just that it was the earlier part of your speech where you're cautioning against people being opportunistic. Although you also said that we must not be quick to say everyone who raises an issue is an opportunist, right? So my first question for you is perhaps, do you think Sarah actually portrayed herself as a self-appointed flag bearer, as you mentioned, or you alluded to? Because I didn't get that sense at all. Even from the interview that I did with her, I thought she was very careful to say that she represents herself firstly, and people who agree with her. She was careful to say she wasn't a representative of the entire community. There are some people who agree with her, some who disagreed with her. So do you think that is a fair accusation or criticism rather of Sarah and what she did?
Yeah. So I think what I said in my speech was that if that was the the intention, or if that was what the appearance was. Because when you're looking at a dialogue, when you're looking at two parties or more than two parties being involved in a dialogue or a discussion or a negotiation, right? You would want to, as a third party, right, looking at it and trying to understand the dynamics of the relationship, try to look at it from the point of view of each of them. So, I mean, I can see it, from Sarah's point of view, and you will see in my speech that I said that I felt that she was coming from the right place. She spoke about how she wanted to make, a better society, a better Singapore for her daughter. And I mean, and why else bring up these things? It's not easy to bring up things in social media because,
Right.
I mean, when you say something, when you're on a platform, you maybe your voice is kind of amplified, but at the same time, you've got people who will come in because they see you, and then they will say something as well, and they should be allowed to, right? Because that is the nature
Sure.
of kind of like a public dialogue. So what I was going into, right, was if you were PA, how would you look at it, right? PA, I mean, don't forget what is the nature of PA. PA is an organization, it's a government organization that was created to look at racial harmony, to look, to basically be the community
Right.
or the communitarian right, standard bearer, right? So, so which is why I was looking at it from the point of view of PA, and I was, when this whole thing unfolded, I was thinking, how is this going to how is it going to play out? And I was wondering what would be the next thing that PA did. I did read what Sarah put out there, very very eloquent as well, right? And very well written what she had put out. But I looked at it and I was thinking, PA as the communitarian standard bearer, right? And here you have someone who's coming in and saying that can I kind of like crowdsource for some views, and then let PA hear the people's voices, things like that. How would PA react? I was just wondering, right?
Right.
And in the end, I felt that it had escalated a little further than it should have, and which is why I said in my speech that perhaps at that point, it may have been best for PA to have disengaged. But I also said that I hope that at some point, right, as the tensions have come down, and each party understands each other better, right? That can only come perhaps with some time and some distance. That we will have some form of meeting and some, I don't know if you can have a resolution or conclusion, but at least some form of I don't know if it's reconciliation also, but some form of meeting and some form of dialogue, and hopefully some form of resolution, right? So what I did was I was looking at it from the part of both parties. Now, let me just clarify and be clear that
Sure.
I do not think that Sarah was an opportunist. In fact, as I said, I think that she had a legitimate grievance, and she had in this sort of things, when you're talking about race dialogue, I think you have to give people the benefit of the doubt, you cannot start a dialogue or go into a dialogue imputing intention, imputing
Right.
deficiency, or whatever. You have to give them the benefit of the doubt and believe until it's proven otherwise that they're not coming in, with this attitude. So I think that I definitely give Sarah the benefit of the doubt. I do not think that she was an opportunist, right? But I think that then equally the benefit of the doubt should also be given to PA as well, right? So that was really the view that I had, right?
Right.
I really hope I watched part of the interview that you had with Sarah, and she is a very likable person. And honestly, I also said that I hope that she returns to continue saying what she thinks is important, right? That she continues speaking out to try to make a more even and more fair a society for her daughter to grow up in. I think that's a very noble aspiration, and I hope that she continues to do that.
Right. Okay. So you think, okay, so thanks for clarifying, Josh. So you don't think she was being opportunistic, and you think she had a legitimate grievance. So if I understand you correctly, where according to you, where she made a mistake is when she crowdsourced for ideas about
I
her
mean,
meeting with.
I, yeah, so I wouldn't say it's entirely a mistake, lah. I would say that that is where, if I was PA, I would start getting a bit concerned. Yeah,
Okay.
so I wouldn't say it's a mistake per se. I mean, how do any of us know, how social media plays out, right? One day, people will be saying, "Oh yeah, what a great thing you said." Then the next day, you've got critics coming out, and saying the opposite. But that is the nature, of social media. I'm not an expert. I think maybe you are. Maybe Sarah is, as a communication specialist. But I mean, for me, I'm an observer. I look at it. And I was really quite, some of the things that kind of worried me, right, was, and not only from this Sarah and PA matter, right, but in other matters that were arising, as well, right, with regards to the poly lecturer who, harassed the interracial
Right.
couple, something that I also posted about
Right.
my own interracial
Right.
family, and one of the things that I saw was increasingly there was a lot of statements being made by both people in the minority, from the minorities and from the majority, about why can't you people see how we feel? You will never understand what we go through. Increasingly there was an us versus them kind of rhetoric, and in fact, if you look at even the recent dialogue that Minister Shanmugam had, the Cao Pao dialogue, and I apologize if I've mutilated the word Cao Pao. I try to pronounce properly, but it's hard for me to get.
Same.
So,
Same.
so if you look at the recent dialogue, right, Minister Shanmugam said that he was actually saddened by the tone of some of the questions that were asked, precisely because there was this kind of ring fencing of, so these are our interests, this is our position, and the more that we take that, right, I think that the more difficult it is, for us to have dialogue, and it really does not help, our society go along in future as regards race relations. Yeah.
Right. I thought Minister Shanmugam he put in a good performance during that forum. I thought he was necessarily harsh on some questions. Although there were some parts where I probably disagree with, but I think generally he was pretty good. So back to that point, right? So thanks for clarifying. I think it's because yours was a speech and there wasn't any back and forth, so maybe you couldn't clarify some points, right? So
and
maybe,
also I only have 20. I also had only 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
But
so
you went over,
it
right?
was
You
a bit
took 20 plus or what?
No, I took 18 minutes and
okay,
37 seconds.
Okay, right. So I had a few other questions, and I think because I am sort of the witness at the accident scene, right? Because I was the one who conducted the interview, so naturally I have an affinity with her, and I'm on #Team Sarah, right? So I feel a bit protective, I guess. Not that she needs it. She's more eloquent than I am. She can defend herself, but you can understand why she would retreat from the public space now, right? Because she's getting attacked, even unfairly, which I'll get to in a while. But I think that part we can understand. So, why did you? Because you said she is not the. She should not okay, you didn't say, but you alluded to the fact that she shouldn't behave as if she's the self-appointed ambassador of the community, or at least from the PA's perspective, right? And then you went on to say that there are many minorities who disagree with her, including Mr. Devadas, including Mr. Zainal Sapari. But there were many other minorities who agreed with her as well, right? So why did you quote those people? Why didn't you quote the people who, when I went to the PA Friends page, right, then I saw maybe there were easily 56, the first 50, 60 comments all were in support of her.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the point that I was making, right, uh, assumed already that she had said what she had said, that there was support. But my point really was that, I mean, if you take on this mantle, right, or if you appear to take on this mantle, actually, honestly, you think about it, it may not even have been what she wanted to do. It may not have even have been her intention. If not, it may not even be what she was doing, right? But really, I was looking at it, equally from her point of view and from the PA's point of view. But my point was that if you did, it would be a very difficult platform to hold, because the moment you have people of the same community coming and saying, I disagree, then that mantle becomes something that will fall off, very, very quickly. So that was the point that I was making. I wasn't saying, I wasn't saying that there were people who didn't agree with her. In fact, there were many people who agreed with her. Like you said, you go onto Facebook and there were many people who disagreed with the PA decision as well. And I thought that if I can distill it, they said that, well, PA is a big organization. PA is intended to foster dialogue, to carry out dialogue. How is it that they've made this this decision? So definitely there was definitely a lot of support. Yeah, but at the same time, like you mentioned, there were also people who came out and who criticized her, and some of which I thought was really quite unfair, right? And who even made false allegations saying that there was a photo of opposition party supporter, and she was there, and then therefore, and made by people that really should not be making these sorts of accusations without verification, right? I think those were very unfortunate as well. But my point was that if one is seen to be taking up this mantle, then it can as easily fall off when there are people who disagree. So I mean, basically, I'm saying that it's very difficult, to carry a whole community, especially with social media. When people can so easily just give their comments and their remarks.
But there is no single issue in the world where all members of a community would agree on, right? So by
precisely,
that, right. So therefore, there can never be a community representative, right?
I mean, I wouldn't say that, right? I think that, okay, so let's look at it as where you've got community representatives, I'm very reluctant to say this. I'm hesitating a bit, right? Like those appointed by the government or who are in official bodies, right? So those, I think, to a certain extent, they can be seen as community leaders and speak on behalf of the community. Of course, if they start saying things, and we've seen this happen before, maybe even recently, right? Where these community leaders, they say something which maybe large parts of the community disagree with, then they lose credibility, and then maybe you'll get someone else doing it. But these are the most visible and obvious. Sometimes it's religious leaders as well. Right. And then you've got, one of the associations that, or the organizations that I referred to in my speech was the Young Sikhs Association. Yeah. So they are also, I think, community leaders and recognized as it, Right. But I think that is a very important point that I should make here. So while I say that I do not say do not take on the mantle of a community leader. What I did say was be careful about it. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, but if you do, you've got to make sure that you can carry the community. And I'm sure that on some issues, I think that it can actually happen, right? But just be careful about it. But again, this does not mean that an individual like Sarah cannot come up and say, this is my lived experience, this is my view, right? And separately, this is my view of what the community is going through, right? And what the community faces on a daily basis. And people may disagree with me, that's fine, right? Because I'm not saying that I represent everybody. I'm not saying that, let me bring forward the people's voices. I'm saying that this is my view based on my lived experience, based on my observations, based on what my friends tell me, based on what my family has gone through, right? This is my observation of what many in the community go through, experience. And and I want to bring this up, right? And I think that if that was done, right, and the PA said, no, I don't want to talk to you, despite the fact that you are bringing up what you feel is an issue, right? Personally, and what you've seen personally, then I think that PA would have made a terrible mistake to have done it. So
Right.
so the thing is, right, that what do we have to go on to look at this whole saga, right? What we have is what PA put out and what Sarah put out, and then it's almost like going to court with evidence,
Right.
right? And because I can look at what was said and I can say, okay, this shows this means this means that, right? And of course, Sarah's a very good interview with you as well, right? And then PA also, they had some statements. So in the end, we are trying to kind of understand what exactly
Right.
happened and what each side was imputing to the actions and the statements of the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess, okay, so assuming a final question on this, final substantive question on this. So assuming that what Sarah did, the final thing, right, which PA seemed to take most issue with, which was soliciting comments from people, right? Assuming that was wrong, because I don't think that is necessarily wrong, because people who agree with her, who thinks she should be their representative, would give their comments to her anyway, right? But assuming that was wrong, right? Wouldn't the PA cancelling the meeting still be wrong? Because PA, surely we cannot hold PA to the same standard as we hold Sarah, or because Sarah is a private citizen, private individual. PA says as an institution which has existed for so long, intended to be a bit more benevolent, or is expected to be a bit more benevolent, right? So don't you think there is at the end of the day, whatever PA, and this whole thing would not have happened if PA had just gone through the meeting. I'm sure Sarah would have been happy with the PA as well, and I'm sure there wouldn't have been this public uproar.
I you know what, I actually agree with you. PA is, as you say, it is an institution, right? But at the same time, it also has to maintain, PA has got its own constituencies as well. So you've got, I think you probably know, right? You've got Mesra, you've got people who, you've got people from the Malay community who volunteer. In fact, quite a large number, who volunteer and who have volunteered for many years. So for them then to be told that, oh, this organization that you have dedicated so much time and effort to, right, is being I'm not sure, because I was thinking of culturally insensitive, but I think that is what PA said, right? PA said culturally insensitive. So I have to, I know it's being this or that, or taking the Malay community, lightly, or not understanding the Malay community. I think that's something that they need to look at and kind of to manage as well. But you are entirely correct that as a government body, right? You are entirely correct that as a government body, right, the PA should not be reluctant to engage in dialogue, especially given the nature, right, of the organization. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So thank you. So did you reach out to her, or will you be reaching out to her anytime, you think?
To who, sorry?
Sarah.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I would love to meet up with her, to have Teh Tarik with her. And actually, I do have some things Teh Tarik here.
I do as well. Okay. Okay, so let's set that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to, and I would love to speak to her and to as I said, one of the great things about being an NMP is really meeting people, understanding issues better, and knowing that I am in a position that if I see something that I can raise, right, in Parliament or outside of it, it's something that I can talk about. So I would honestly, as I said, how I look at this is basically all these what we would call hearsay evidence or third-party evidence, right? I mean, I've not spoken to her myself, so I've looked at her Instagram posts, I've looked at her interview with you and statements. But if I can speak to her directly, I would be delighted too, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
to understand it better. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Josh, for. I was a bit worried about that particular segment. So let's move on with our friendship intact.
No, I
Okay.
think the most important thing is that we've got to be willing to listen to each other, right? And we have to also respect that each of us have got, our points of view, our interests and our constituents, and
Right.
for individuals, our grievances, our lived experiences, our concerns. So I think we've got to respect that, and then we can have really a very meaningful conversation. Yeah.
Right. And I really appreciate you saying that you didn't feel Sarah was an opportunist or she was trying to make a big deal of it. No, I really appreciate that. So let's move on to the other aspects of your speech, right? Which
Okay.
I actually agree with your points on the GRC and the SEP schools. Let's take them on one by one. I do agree with you, but I'm just gonna ask the questions that a lot of people are asking, right? The GRC, right? Because you said we should not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So if there is a political critique, it should be restricted to that, a political critique, right? So what would be a political critique? You think, let's say if tomorrow, right, Minister Shanmugam, Minister Edwin Tong went to you, okay, Joshua, you give us a suggestion to keep the GRC, to improve it. Whatever you say, we'll implement it. What will you tell?
Okay. I think the point that I was making was really whether we see that there is value in the GRC as kind of ameliorating ethnic tensions, right? Arising out of elections, arising out of the political contest for seats, right? And I think that's precisely what the GRCs have done. One of the things that I said was that the perception of unfairness, the perception that people may vote according to ethnic lines, and the perception that someone may have lost precisely because of race is really taken out of the equation because of the GRC system, because you need to have a minority. I mean, of course, we still have got SMCs as well, so that there's a possibility that it may happen there, right? But as regards GRCs per se, I think that concern is largely ameliorated. And one of the criticisms, which I call a political criticism, is that it's become very large, right? And that it has become easier for new candidates to just ride on the coattails of the anchor minister or ministers, and just get into parliament easily. And there have been, people have given examples of this. So honestly, my view is that we have to have a balance of the first, the number of GRCs and the number of SMCs, and I think that does appear to be a movement towards that. We see more SMCs in the recent elections. And second, I think there is also a need for us to reduce the size of the GRCs, and I think that is another criticism, and I agree, right? We shouldn't have too many of the 5 and I don't know if there's still 6, right? 5 and 6.
There's no more 6, right?
There's no more 6, right?
Do we need more than 2 actually? If it's about minority representation, no more than 2% GRCs.
More than 2% GRCs. So you're saying that
do we need it? Yeah, maximum of 2. Would that work? You think?
So several 2% GRCs in which one must be a minority.
Yes. Maybe 14 Malays, 8 Indians, and then the rest are all SMCs. So,
well, yeah, I think that is actually a possibility as well. I mean, the thing is that there's a possibility of so many different permutations, right? I mean, the question then would be, okay, again, so this is also perhaps a political administrative consideration, right? Then we would have many small little constituencies, each of them running their own town councils, right? Given the system that we have. So perhaps, I mean, one of the things that has come out of the GRC system is that we have a more efficient allocation of resources in in our municipal services. In that we have really kind of consolidated several what would have been SMCs into one big area, and then it's administered as one municipality. So that may be one thing that we want to consider, whether we still want to keep to retain. Yeah.
Okay. Right. You, and also I need to point out that there were two very interesting points that you made. One is you categorically said that madrasas are not equivalent to SEP schools, which we'll get to. And then the other one, you actually said Singaporeans are ready for a non-Chinese Prime Minister, right?
Okay, which one shall we do first? Let's do whether we are ready for or not. I think that, if you look at some of the polls that have been done, right, I think that we are ready for a Chinese Prime Minister. I don't think this is a question,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. No, I just wanted to thank you for raising it in Parliament. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So the GRCs, you are not against it in principle because just to guarantee minority representation, and just now from what you said, basically you also want to ensure that campaigning doesn't become racial. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So that's another benefit of the GRCs that people generally do not talk about, right? People always talk about minority representation, but they don't talk about how the campaigns can be racial. And through the GRCs, it ensures that. So I do agree with you. My position, I don't think we need more than 2 or 3 people in a GRC. For the town councils, I think you can have maybe 2 to 1 or something like that to have one town council for 2 or 3 constituencies. But okay, I think we are in agreement there. SEP schools, right? And I think you gave quite a nuanced perspective on SEP schools. But and I largely agree with your argument. I think there is a need. At least, I mean, we are not designing the system from scratch. The system is here, so SEP schools are here. I think it doesn't make sense to abolish it at this point in time, right? However, one of the things that you said, which I also agree with, which is we must avoid this situation where, you have it, I must also have it, right?
Yeah.
However, that is precisely what irks a lot of people, right? Because they do not have it, or they see that other people have it, and this violates the principle of equality. So how would you respond to that?
Well, I mean, I think that we should not mistake or conflate equality with uniformity, right? I mean, each of our communities is different. Each individual is different. And I mean, even when you talk about schools, when you talk about catering for the different abilities of individual students, right? You don't want to have a one-size-fits-all for everybody, because they each have got, different abilities, different skills, different competencies, right? And I mean, of course, it's not, I think it's difficult to say that one particular race is good in one particular, say subject, for example, right? But where you have that kind of a natural advantage that Singapore can benefit from, which I think that when you look at Chinese students taking Mandarin, learning more about Chinese culture, so that they can be our business leaders, bringing business to China, and hopefully bringing business from China to Singapore. And that's something that I've seen in my own firm. My partner, she can negotiate in Mandarin. She can draft contracts, in Mandarin, because she was in the, she took Mandarin as a first language, and she was in this program. So it's brought benefits to the firm in Singapore. So where we have this natural advantage, do you think we should? I mean, the question is, do we do away with it in the guise of under the guise of equality, when actually we're talking about uniformity, and I don't think that we want to do that. And if you look at some of the things that we've done in the past, when I was in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, one of the things that we promoted at that time was bringing in Islamic finance, and we would go to the Middle East. And we would say, actually, we've got a Muslim community as well, right? And we are located in a region where you've got a lot of Muslims. So, why don't you come and start setting up your Sharia-compliant businesses in Singapore? Why don't you bring your Sharia-compliant products to Singapore? Insurance, investments, and all that. So again, this was a natural advantage that we had. And we said, why not look at Singapore as an Islamic finance hub, right? And you will probably recall in the 90s, right? Then PM Goh Chok Tong, he kind of encouraged an India fever, right? Where we started looking at India, started looking at how we can bring in, Indian investment, how our companies could go to India as well. And he would wear the Nehru suit, when he went over to India. So again, here it was a use of our natural advantage to say that we've got an Indian community in Singapore. We've had long-lasting trade relations. We are separated by just an expanse of straits and an expanse of water. Right, so these were all the natural advantages that we looked at, and the way that I see it is that SAP schools are basically, just another form of us trying to use our natural advantages, one of our natural advantages to benefit Singapore.
Right. Now, how do you correct for the problem which you also mentioned, right, which is the lack of interaction between?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So that is a separate question, of course. It's no longer we're no longer talking about.
Yeah, it's not about principle. Yes, correct. It's not about the principle for SAP. So now this is a practical issue.
This is a practical problem, right? And in fact, many students who have gone through this system have said it, that they really have had not much interaction with people of other races. And honestly, I mean, in Singapore, this is a massive problem for multicultural society, and especially for people who are going to schools which are top schools. And many of them, in fact, there was a forum letter as well where the product of a SAP school said that he didn't actually meet any minorities. In fact, I think Teh Tarik said it as well in the Taobao forum, that he didn't meet any minorities until he went to army and then he understood and he appreciated them. So maybe army and all that is helping, but these are people who then went on and who actually met people, actually knew them, actually got along with them, and perhaps grew an understanding and appreciation of the minorities in Singapore. But how many more actually don't, and then they continue to be kind of ensconced in a Chinese environment, right? How many? I mean, we don't know, right? We don't know how many, but surely there will be some. And is it something that we want to accept? Because we know that that you've got to foster this appreciation for our multiculturalism at an early age, right? And just having racial harmony day, and things like that. I mean, of course, which are all good initiatives. It's not enough. You're not going to foster that. So I think this is an issue. It is, in fact, I won't say it's an issue. I think it's a problem that that we've got to look at, that MOE needs to look at very seriously, and they've got to find some way to ensure that there is interaction with other races, and not only interaction, but appreciation, the possibility, the ability, the opportunity to build friendships, and to build relationships with people of other races.
Right, and also a lot of these SAP schools are also the better schools, right? And a lot of them go on to be somebody, right? Go on to hold important positions in society. So I think the impact is even more pronounced because of that, right? If they have not had minority friends, and I think a lot of them genuinely did not have minority friends up until they were 18 or something, right? And those are the formative years of a person's life. So definitely, I think that is a problem that needs to be solved quite urgently. Okay, so I know you have gotten on to, after your Pol Science degree, you went on to get a more useful degree. But I want you I want you to put on your Pol Science hat again, and now as a meshing theory with practice, right? The nominated member of Parliament scheme, which you and I both studied under Hussein Muttalib, we tutored for him, Professor Hussein, and he would say the NMP is a scheme that strengthens PAP hegemony, right? He's written about this before. So do you think now, as someone who's living through it, do you think that's true?
Can you just, if I can trouble you, right? If you could just refresh my memory, what his argument was about.
Not just him, but other people as well. So he's one of those. The schemes like NCMP and NMPs, they guarantee that there will be non-PAP voices. Therefore, people are less likely to vote for the opposition. That's one. Then the other one is the NMP is selected by a select committee comprising mostly the PAP. There will be one opposition MP, so chances are you're going to get people who are safer. So those are the kinds of arguments that I mean. Do you think that's true? Or yeah.
So I think the test of it is in eating the pudding, right? And you would see. I mean, you've had Anthea, on your program, and I mean, I wonder whether, she is in the mold, right, of someone who, is very, supporting the PAP, and you've got several, who really came out, and some commentators have even said that the NMPs, that they really ask questions that are even more hard hitting than the opposition MPs. I mean, of course, I think in this current parliament, right, the WP MPs are actually quite hard hitting, yeah. Okay, but however, I think that there is an important role that the NMPs play, and I'm saying this not because I am now an NMP and I'm trying to justify myself, but I say it because I actually feel it and I can see it, right? And I have been told it by members of both. Actually, it's not both parties. There are three parties, right? But at least two parties, in Parliament, and that is that when I raise issues, right, I don't have a whip, right? I don't have a whip. I don't have I don't have a party position that I must comply with. I do not have party elders that who are ministers that I would not want to earn the ire of, So I can raise these these issues, right? And if you look at how far and wide I can go, MPs, I mean, of course, they can speak to anyone. They can speak to interest groups as well, right? But because they've got meet the people sessions, they've got to take care of their constituency. So a lot of the matters that they bring up are based on what their constituents are raised to them, right? And I think that actually is their job, that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
Well, for us, I think, and all of my fellow NMPs, we've got a lot of interest groups coming to speak to us, and they enjoy speaking to us because we can say we can have a frank and honest discussion with them, completely devoid of policy considerations or political considerations, and really just looking at the issue itself, right? And then seeing how we can ask questions in Parliament, we can raise issues in Parliament. The speech that I gave on race, the adjournment motion that I raised on race, it would have been very difficult for an MP of either party on either side of the aisle to have given it. It would have been very difficult. So there are certain things that we can raise, that we can say, and I think there are so many examples of former NMPs who have brought up very difficult questions. I mentioned Anthea because she was in the immediate past Parliament, but there have been many before that, as well. Sukampong, he raised very pertinent and important issues, Viswa as well, right? So I think there is a role for us to play. I don't know how much we kind of strengthen the hegemony of the ruling party. I don't think that. I don't know if it was one of the original intentions, but I don't think people look at NMPs and say, so we've got these people, to raise issues. Therefore, we don't need opposition parties.
I mean, whatever the original intention, that is not how it pans out anymore. Right?
Yeah, correct. And now I think people they look at the opposition parties. I think to the largest extent, they look at the Workers' Party and they say, this is an opposition party. They are going to raise, these issues, right? And they will raise the issues in Parliament. They have done so. They have spoken so well and so eloquently, and they are the opposition members of Parliament, right? And what are these NMPs? These NMPs are the people who would then bring up, right? Who navigate, or I wouldn't say navigation. We don't have to navigate. We just say, okay, so these are the things that that I want to raise, right? Because we don't have to navigate the politics of it,
Right.
So I hope that that's what I think. It's the NMPs are an important institution. I'm glad that having 9 NMPs has been enshrined in the constitution, and I think that future NMPs. Right. And I mean, current MPs, I think that all 9 of us, we do see this as our role. And I think that future NMPs, what they should see as the role is really these neutral people who are apolitical, right? And who can bring up difficult issues that politicians will find difficult to deal with, because they have to constantly think about public opinion, and they constantly have to think about ultimately elections. Right. Which we don't. We are appointed. We serve a particular term, and then after that, we are done. And hopefully, we do a good job. Right. During.
Right.
Yeah.
I think absolutely right. The NMPs cannot be accused of politicizing an issue if they raise a difficult issue, right? Whereas both parties can do that to each other. All 3 parties can do that to each other by NMPs. So in that sense, also, I can just imagine that the NMPs confer a degree of legitimacy on a particular vote, right? That nobody else does.
Correct. So I mentioned that there have been, some of the things that the politicians or the elected MPs have said, to us is that, you guys have, a certain, I don't know if this is the correct term, privilege in that.
Let's not go there.
If you vote, one way or another, it does confer, more legitimacy, on the vote. If you support a particular position or another, it does confer a certain neutral legitimacy. And I think it's very important that the NMPs retain it, and maintain that neutrality and maintain that, that kind of esteem that we are going to look at things without looking at the politics of it. And I find it necessary to look at what both or all 3 parties are saying. And sometimes I will be honest that sometimes I feel a little bit of pressure to either not agree with the ruling party or to not disagree with the opposition party, because either way, then people will say, this guy, he's, just part of that. But I think of course, the NMPs are we also are human, and we look at it, very carefully. But I think that we should not shy away from it. If you agree with the PAP, just say you agree with the PAP. If you agree with the WP, just say you agree with the WP. And if you disagree with the WP or PPs, then you've got to say that is the role that we play, and we have got to exemplify it. Otherwise, the institution will start losing its legitimacy.
Right. And I think your speech did that, right? You agreed with the PAP in keeping the GRC, but you disagreed on the non-Chinese Prime Minister, and you were trying to nudge them to move apart. So I think you eloquently put out what an NMP should be about. So let's go to your pet topic for the final few minutes, right? So income inequality, right? So I mean, this is something especially for low-wage workers, right? This is something I know even Mr. Zainal Sapari he was championing it for the longest time. I think you are sharing the mental. He still is. You're right. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So and you are doing that as well. So what is the solution to this? Would a minimum wage be a feasible solution for income inequality? What do you think?
So far we've been looking at the progressive wage model, right? Being implemented in various sectors. So my own experience of it. So when I entered the security industry, sorry, before going back to legal practice, I entered into the security industry. I ran a security firm, and I came in just before the PWM was implemented. So essentially, I had to implement the PWM in my firm, and I can tell you that the wage increases, right, have been really significant under the PWM, and not only wage increases. Officers feel better about themselves, right? They feel that they're doing an important job. They've got progression. They are going for courses. They are getting more skills, I think that the industry overall, over the past 6 years, I think 6 or 7 or so years since the PWM was implemented for the security industry. It's so much better than it was, right? But of course, after some time, it kind of plateaus, right? And we have to look at the actual numbers as well. So even though we've actually brought our officers' wages up from quite a low level, right, it's still very far behind the median wage, right? And what we are trying to do in the next phase is to kind of narrow the gap between what the low-wage workers are earning and what the median wage is. Now, of course, this is what we are doing for the progressive wage model. I think a lot of progress has been made for all of the 4 or the 3 PWM sectors so far, and it's going to be extended to more. The question then is whether we need to have a minimum wage as well. And I listened to Ravi Menon's very brilliant, lecture, right? As a fellow at IPS, the third lecture that he gave was precisely on this, and I think that he had a very interesting, but not a novel a proposition, which is that we should have both a minimum wage and a progressive wage as well. So the progressive wage, I think that it's very useful because you don't only look at wages, but you look at many other things. In the security industry, we are going to look at how we can use wages to affect working hours. As you know, security officers, they work very, very long hours, 12-hour days a week.
Absolutely.
So we're going to use the PWM to try to affect that. We're also going to try to use the PWM to upskill them so they can take up technology, right? And they can, move up the skills chain. And in the other sectors, these are things that we can also achieve. So the PWM is good because it's sectoral and it's bespoke. So what Ravi Menon is suggesting is that on top of this, right, because although the government has said that they are going to look at PWMs for every single sector, but maybe as kind of a safety net would be a general minimum wage. And I think that this is what Ravi Menon is saying, in addition to the PWM. So I said that it is interesting, but it's not something that has been said before, because this actually has been brought up by the Workers' Party before. But I mean, regardless of that, again, right, so I think we should look beyond the politics of it. We should look at our workers. We should look at the fact that the lowest wage earners in Singapore actually do earn very shocking wages. That is actually so. And we cannot continue, one of the issues that we have in the PWM sectors, in cleaning, in security, in landscape, is that the buyers of these services, they expect that they're going to pay very low wages.
Absolutely.
Or they're going to pay very low amounts for these services. And the question is why? If you look at what is the price that you will put on security, on safety of your loved ones and of your property, on cleanliness, on hygiene, on how, on the maintenance of your facilities, of your escalator, your elevator. You really want to walk up the stairs, the thing is not working. What is the price that you would place on these? And then be ready to pay that price. But unfortunately, buyers, they look at the cleaners and say, why should we pay so much for this? Although the role that they play is very important to our way of life and to our, to the standard or the quality of life that we have become used to, right? So we've got to have that change, of mindset. That there are certain jobs that we ought to pay. It's okay, rather, that we can pay relatively low wages. We got to get out of that, and we've got to accept also that it's not all about the lawyers and the bankers and the all these people sitting in offices who should be earning the high salaries. There are loads of other people who are doing very, very difficult work, who are doing work that is strenuous. It's in environments that should not be, they should not be working for long hours, but they are, and these people should be entitled, to a good wage. So we as a society, we've got to be prepared. The buyers of these services, the general population. I saw there was a Asst a poll that said that people are now more ready to pay more for essential workers, right? And I think that's a good sign. So let's move along that line, right? If we
Right.
need to have a safety net minimum wage to get a progressive wage model, I think that's something that we should look at. But of course, having been involved in the negotiations, over 2 sets of negotiations, and still ongoing, right, for the PWM, for the security sector, it is not easy to fix what the minimum wage should be. Right? There
What's
are
the
many
biggest
arguments
roadblock?
either way.
What's the biggest roadblock? What's the biggest roadblock?
So that we are facing in the
For you.
so in my negotiations, the biggest problem, as I mentioned, is because it's an outsourced service, right? So we can put the wage at a certain level, but how much are the buyers going to be prepared
Right.
to pay for it, right? And we also want to ensure that the agencies themselves, the officers themselves, they feel that what they're doing is important, right? They should not feel that, for this job, I should accept a lower wage. So we've got to change that mindset as well.
Right.
And then we want the workers to go and demand and to say, no, I'm a security officer, and so therefore I should be paid much more than this. And, for lower working hours as well. So
Right.
I think the mindset shift is really the biggest issue. But when it's legislated, when we put in things like the code of conduct, when we have government support, when we have outreach that is done correctly and properly, right, and we have people who have an open mind and who can accept that these workers are now underpaid. So don't even talk about increasing productivity and then we increase wages. They are already underpaid now. And what we are trying to do with the PWM, with a minimum wage, is really to bring them up to par. Bringing them up to par. So, I mean, I will tell you honestly, sometimes I get a bit irritated when people say, oh, but we must also have a concomitant increase in productivity.
Yeah.
Then essentially you are just squeezing the stone more, right?
Right.
Even before you come to par, you say no, you must have more productivity. And I don't think that is the correct narrative. The narrative now is that they're actually underpaid. We've got to bring it up to par. And then from there, let's talk about further increases being concomitant with further productivity increase.
Then I feel that one segment of society which is neglected in these discussions, even when the opposition was talking about it, which is the foreign workers. So, and I feel like is that a stumbling block, you think, towards mandating minimum wage? As opposed to PWM, which can be sectoral, right? If it's minimum wage and it's,
So you're asking whether the minimum wage should apply to foreign workers?
Or are we gonna then segregate? Are we gonna say this is only to Singaporeans, or how would it work, right? Because I feel like one of the stumbling blocks to it is because people do not want to pay that amount for foreign workers. I don't know. I mean, you're the expert on this, right? So what do you think?
So I think this one is a tough call because it's very emotive, and Singaporeans now, and to a very large extent, I can understand, I empathize, right? A lot of people have said this. I think now politicians are saying it as well. We've got to take care of our own first, right? And then make sure that ensure that our people have good wages, have got good livelihoods, have got jobs which are not so-called unfairly taken away from them. And then when you come in and then someone says that, oh, but how about the foreigners here? Should we also legislate some kind of minimum wage for them, right? I think it's a very tough.
Politically, you think it's a tough sell?
Yeah. So I think that.
But it would be the right thing to do, right? Because I mean, if you're talking about my dad was in the security. He was a security guard for a while, so I know exactly how tough it is. 12 hours, especially just a few years, 12 hours. You don't, at 50 years old, you don't sleep the whole night. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But
exactly.
the jobs that the foreign workers do are also, they are labor intensive. It's also equally bad, right? Or in some case, it demands more. So, wouldn't that be the right thing to do as well, you think? Let's say the political considerations aside, not that that's possible.
But look at the practical considerations, right? So I was just talking about how we want to raise one of the stumbling blocks of raising the wages of our Singaporean workers in the low wage sectors is that buyers don't want to pay more. So And I can tell you that that is the biggest problem. It's the biggest problem. And we're talking about our Singapore workers, So now when you say that for the foreign workers, let's legislate a minimum wage, which means that the cost of whatever service they are providing, right,
Everything will
or
go
that it
up.
contributes to it, it's going to go up as well. So if you look at construction workers, if you legislate a minimum wage, it means that the cost of housing, the cost of of all sorts of other things are all going to go up, right? And the question is whether Singaporeans are going to say, well, okay, so now you've increased the wages of the Singaporeans and costs have all gone up. Okay, and we've taken that on. But now you want to increase the wages of everyone else as well, of the foreign workers as well, right? And that's going to cause our cost of living further to go up. And the question is, right, because it's a practical question. Are our wages, right, going up at a sufficient rate for the general Singaporean, right? Is it going at a sufficient rate for us to absorb all of these cost increases? I know it is a bit of a what is the word for it? I don't know if it's brutal. It's a bit of a very hard-headed, way to look at it. But the reality is, can we really absorb all of these cost increases at one go? I mean, of course, there are questions as to how is it that we have come to this situation, right? But the fact of it is that is the reality of it. So how do we deal with it, and how do we make policies that can ensure, right, that first, of course, Singaporeans must be taken care of, and then second, okay, my personal view, as I said, I am not a politician, right? I am not so.
You are somewhat. You are not partisan politician.
I'm not partisan politician, yes. But so my view is actually that there is somewhat of a minimum wage for professional foreigners that come in already, right? Because if you look at your Asst, your work permit, there's actually a minimum salary. So that's kind of like a minimum salary for them. It's for those who, I don't think work permit, I'm not sure. So work permit maybe is a little bit lower, but I think that if we want to continue to attract people to come into Singapore, right, for all levels of work, then we have to be paying at a reasonable rate, And I think that as we go along and we accept that Singaporeans who are doing what have been considered the more blue collar work, right? If we can accept that their salaries should go up, I think it's a natural progression that we will accept that foreigners who are in these jobs as well, that their wages will go up as well.
Right. Yeah. So you think the mindset shift will come when the first hurdle is crossed, right? Okay.
Correct. But I think legislating it is going to be a little bit difficult,
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Josh. So let's end off with a light-hearted question, right? So who's your favorite MP from your interaction in Parliament, right? So one PAP, one opposition. Who's your favorite?
One PAP, one opposition. Well, this one is a tough call. Maybe I'll start with opposition first. I really like Gerald Giam.
Okay.
So I've known Gerald for many years. I've known him for many years. We were in MFA together. And I tell you something about Gerald. Gerald is I mean, of course, we all know he's a very nice person, but Gerald is also a very good person. He's very good-hearted. He has a very nice temperament.
He's a goody two-shoes, right? Yeah.
He is, and his heart is in the right place. He is interested in.
Absolutely.
He's truly concerned about Singaporeans. He's truly concerned that he wants to make sure that things go well for Singapore. So I've known him for all these years. I tell you something interesting. So when we were in MFA, I inadvertently stole his cab. So we were both waiting for a cab. I forgot at that time you had to dial. You have to dial to call the cab, and I didn't take it down. I assumed it was mine. I took it and I went up because I was going on an overseas trip. So from MFA. and he was like, "This is my cap." I said, "I'm so sorry," but he didn't hold it against me at all, and he was totally fine, because he understood, that I was
Right,
working, and I
right.
think maybe I hope he took my my cap after that. So I really do like Gerald. PAP MPs, wow, there are so many to choose from, and I'm really hard pressed to think like who I like most. I like not that I don't like any of them, right?
No, like most.
I like most. Mm, that I like.
Oh, Josh, he's
Surely I
taking
have
some time.
considered this at
Yeah,
some point. I like many of them. Okay, so it can be a minister also, right?
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, give me two lah. Give me two lah. So I really like ministers Desmond Lee and Evan Tong.
Okay.
And the reason is, I mean, if you look at the recent debate, um, um, I think it was on the ethnic integration policy and on the HDB quota,
Yeah.
right? Now, I mean, these are of course they are politicians. They are in parliament. They should be expected to debate very
Yeah.
vociferously, right? But if you look at the debate that they had with Pritam, right, with leader of the opposition Pritam, it was very gentlemanly.
Yeah.
It was it was hard hitting, but it was gentlemanly, and I
Right.
really, I mean, honestly, I looked at it and I thought, yes, this is very good. This is the way that politics should be done, right?
Right.
It should be hard hitting, but it should be respectful, and and I was very very happy with it. And in fact, you think about it, even Pritam was very
Yeah, he was.
also gentlemanly, and I
Yeah.
think that is the way that he does things. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, there, of course, I when I first went into Parliament and I met the both the opposition and the PAP MPs, I was just overwhelmed by how nice everyone was, and how well-meaning, everyone was. So, when you ask me to choose my favorite, I mean, for Gerald, of course, it's easy because I know him
Right.
for a very long time, But for the rest, it's a very likable bunch. And I know that sometimes people they look at the MPs and then they say, they impute that they don't care, they're in it for the money and all that. But what I see are really people who want to raise issues and who want to do well, by their constituents. So again, maybe here is a good time for me to say that give them the benefit of the doubt also, and I mean even the PSP MPs, I think give them the benefit of the doubt. And listen to what they are saying. Perhaps there's something to it, right?
Right.
Perhaps it's not. Perhaps they haven't brought it up in the best
Right.
way, right? But I think there's a desire to do well, to do good, and we should give them the benefit of the doubt that this is what they are trying to do.
Right. On that conciliatory note, thank you so much, Josh, for doing this. We went way over 1 hour, but I really appreciate you coming on. And let's do Teh Tarik in
thanks so
real
much
life.
for reaching out.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll be
Yes.
I'll be following your speeches on in Parliament.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Good night,
Walid.
everyone.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
everyone for coming.
Bye.
Yeah. Good night.
Bye.